Hi, y'all. I'm Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial entrepreneur and Amazon bestselling publisher, author, and all-natural product manufacturer. I'm a champion for your natural self-care, sustainable business care, and overall intentional wellness.
Hey, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, published author, and dancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Together, we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness and the co-founders of the Women Connected in Wisdom community.
And we like to get together every week for intentional conversations between us and special guests about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness.
How do we do it?
Mm-hmm.
And often we have expert guests with us. Today, it's you and I, which I'm excited about. It's kind of fun after the
Yes.
200th episode where we had a lot of guests.
Yeah.
To then it just be you and I for
I was
a
thinking about it.
reset. I love that with a transition.
Right.
And then we'll be back in 2 weeks with an
Mhm.
expert guest. And,
Mhm.
already looking at the end of the year, which is nuts to me.
It is.
It is nuts to me that September 1st is Monday.
201. How you feeling on this side of 200, Christine?
Whoop, whoop. I'm glad we made it. I was questioning for a minute, are we going to make it? Like, life has been lifing. And I was like, there's something about like a nice round number. Like,
Yeah.
and it was a good place to pause and us to have a break. And, but life just kept lifing. And I was
Yeah.
like, I got to see Shannon. We got to
Yeah.
be live.
Yeah.
How are you? How are you feeling about
Mhm.
201?
I am, one, so grateful. You know what I mean? Just for the opportunity to even be talking about it, to be talking about all the stuff that we're talking about, you know? 2, I think I'm finally getting excited to restart again. It feels like a restart for everything. You know, it feels like a restart for Shayla Glow. It feels like a restart of our pace. You know, it feels like a restart of the paces of the different businesses. And I've been tired. I'm tired. Do I feel like doing it? Like,
Right.
where am I at with everything, you know?
Right.
And different things are like reviews or feedback that we're getting is just making me excited to keep going, you know, reminding me of the impact and, reminding me of where my passion is and starting to get excited again.
Mm.
And not that I lost, my love for it, but the energy and the excitement is coming back. That's where I'm at 201. I'm excited.
Mm. I love it.
Mhm.
I love it. Yeah, well, I don't think you're alone in being tired right now. Like, I think the
Right.
world is a little tired of
Oof, a
the
lot tired.
nonsense, a
Yeah.
lot tired.
Mhm.
I've been having a lot of conversations with folks that love to jump into because we're talking about navigating transitions today. We were talking about what we wanted to talk about on the show, and
Yeah.
really transitions came up, right? It came
Mhm.
up when I was saying, it's here in Georgia now that you're not here anymore, but
I know, it's crazy. Hmm.
um, it's the false fall. Like
Yeah.
I woke up this morning and it was 58 degrees.
That's supposed to be tomorrow.
Yummy,
Yeah.
delightful, right? Especially after the humidity and the heat of August. But the transition of the weather, the transition of kids going back to school and the buses are going. A lot of times we're transitioning out of that mode of summer schedules to
Right.
fall, and we've got the
Mhm.
last quarter coming up
That's
and
true.
how we finish in the year, right?
Mhm,
And then
mhm.
it won't be long and we're transitioning into the holidays, which
Yeah.
is it official, like with Labor Day that you're I don't know where the official transition is anymore.
And you know what? They're moving it up, Christine. They are
I know.
moving it
I
up.
know.
There's Halloween stuff out already, you know what I
I know.
mean? So
I
the fact
know.
that there's Halloween stuff out before Labor Day,
Right? And they've been doing that for years,
I
right? That's
know.
our late stage capitalism. That's what, trying to get us to
Not
spend all
late
our pennies.
stage.
I will tell you though, like I'm a sucker on
Mm,
Instagram for all the crafts. Like I
mm,
do, but like because I'm a maker and a crafter and an artist, like you got to start those stuff early if you're going to
mhm.
make it yourself,
Yeah,
right?
I've been thinking about
So,
crocheting. I'm like, "What type of yarn do I want?"
right?
Yeah.
What project are you thinking about? What are you?
You know what's fascinating? I'm thinking about making myself a blanket, and not just 1 blanket, but 2 blankets, because 'cause we're always at his mom's, and I have made so many blankets, scarves, and hats over the last what has it been, like, 25 years?
Mhm.
And I've never made myself a blanket. So I think
Or just a side note, your business partner. So I
oh,
just
you want a blanket? What type of blanket would
yes,
you like?
but
What color scheme?
be after you, because I believe in self-care
Okay,
for
yes,
community
yes,
care.
it's important, yeah. What
You get
color?
to choose, but, I mean, I love purples and blues and greens
Mm,
and mm, but whatever you want. You
we
know
can
me
make that
well enough to
happen.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was wondering, like, who am I gonna make a blanket for this year? So we can definitely put it
Or
on
it
the
can be a
list.
scarf. Like, I can have reasonable expectations. It could be a Women Connected Wisdom scarf.
Okay.
Like, that would
And
be
and
fun.
thankfully, again, it's the end of August, right? So you've given me plenty of time, um, to think about it and do
Would love
both,
a
either. Let's see what
would love
happens.
a Shannon Mitchell original.
Oh, we can make that
I
happen.
was crafting this weekend. I have to tell you a story because it was just I don't know if you saw it on my Instagram, but
Which
I
one?
was what I did this weekend. So I had a friend over
The
on Friday.
necklaces?
Uh-huh.
They were
Uh-huh.
good. Let's talk about it. Tell me about it.
So I had a friend over on Friday, and I have been obsessed with all the videos of mixed media
Okay.
and gel printing.
Mm.
The whole like, when you're an artist or a maker, like, you know how the algorithm works, like, once you get
Mhm.
on one person's, they show you and I'm like,
Yeah.
"I wanna try that technique and that
Mm.
technique."
Mhm.
Well, I had gotten into it before dad had passed away,
Mm.
and then, it's been sporadic. It has not been consistent, and so I looked up, and it had been a year since I'd created stuff, and I was like,
Wow.
why? Right? And part of it is the grieving process. And, my arts were some of the stuff that I set down, um, not intentionally, but just while I was working through stuff.
Right.
So I pulled out my, sorry, I lost my word for a second
It's
because
okay.
real talk. Um, my kid called and,
Mhm.
I was like, why is my phone ringing? Because
Mhm.
I have it on do not disturb, but, they're in my favorites. So,
Mhm. That part. You need to
all right.
go for a
No,
second?
it's
Okay.
good. It's good.
Okay.
Um, I'm sure they're just driving home from college and forget that we're live. So,
Got it.
just real talk. So gel printing, I had all these prints that I had done that, to be honest, I didn't really like.
Okay.
And I thought, I'm just they're in my scrap pile. I'm
Mm.
going to use them for other mixed media projects. I am the type of artist that saves like every little thing because it goes along with my reuse and reduce recycle mindset. And
Mhm.
so my friend Shelly came over and I was teaching her how to gel print.
Mhm.
And because it'd been about a year since I did it, half my materials, I still don't know where half my materials are.
Mhm.
Probably
Mhm.
they're in a bag because I'm a bag lady. They're
Mm.
probably in a bag from a trip. And so I just had one roller. And so I was teaching her how to do the gel printing. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do while she's doing that? And I started looking at these things that I quote unquote didn't like. And I was like, what can I use those for? Like, and then I had found this jewelry making kit that had gotten stuck somewhere it didn't belong. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to play around with that.
Mm.
Well, then I started looking. And, one of my philosophies in life and through interplay is look for the good, right?
Mhm.
So I took these little glass carcabones and I was looking at the big picture and I was finding these tiny pictures within the big picture that
Mhm.
I loved. Like, some of them look like mountains and some of them look like a really beautiful, um, flower, and some of
Mhm.
them look like an animal, and, like,
Mhm.
in the bigger picture, I was like, "Ah, that doesn't really work for me." But the
Mhm.
tiny ones, and so I started cutting them out and making jewelry out of them, and then
Mhm.
it just got nuts, and I
Mhm.
created, I don't know, 75.
Mm. Okay.
That's what I did
Keep it
this
waiting.
weekend, is I
Yes.
created, and,
Yeah.
so I'll have to send you a picture, and you figure out
Yeah,
which
show
one you
me.
like, because
Okay.
there's squares, there's hearts, there's
Mm.
circles, there's you know but it was a good reminder, I posted it on my personal Instagram, and I was it Sonia Marie Brown, I think, that I was listening to? She was doing
Mhm.
a live, and she was saying The antidote to destruction and what's
Mhm.
going on in our world right now is creativity and
Mhm.
creation. So
Mhm.
create something.
Mhm.
And it was just such a joy to create something. Like, I didn't have a purpose. I wasn't like, I just was like, "Oh, what can I do with this?" And then it yeah, it was super fun.
I love it. But and I'm always gonna come with the and we could tell maybe we could do this joke on air. The B word I always use for you, the brilliant, you know what I mean? Show you the brilliance because you said that you didn't do it on purpose. And even though part of it you weren't planning on doing, you did intentionally reuse it. And
Mhm.
like you said, that's a
It did.
principle that you stand on. You know what I
It's one of
mean?
my values, and
Yeah.
I wanna call the right person's name. It was
Mhm.
Sonia Renee Taylor who I was
Okay.
listening to, who I
Okay.
love her work, and, she's The Body Is Not an Apology,
Mhm.
and, she popped on as one of the lives, and it was just so inspiring, and
Good.
I'll tag to her work in our show notes,
Mm.
so
I love it. And we were talking about transitions and what to do in those seasons. I was talking to one of our coffee and chats last week, getting ready for 2026 and this amazing lineup we're gonna have for our listeners and our viewers. And we were talking about the women, who have transitioned. And honestly, I keep on hearing different hundreds of thousands. Is it three? Is it six? Is it five? How many hundreds of thousands of women, you know what I mean,
out
have
of the
been?
workforce? Make
Yes.
sure are you saying out of jobs or out of life? Because we got both going on right now.
Okay, can we talk let's talk about both. Where are
Yeah.
we at? Because when we talk about transitions, I think that's a beautiful place to start. What are your principles? Okay, this is the big picture. The big picture looks different. What parts of the little picture do I want to keep? You know what I mean? This is working for me on my social wellness. This is not working for me on my financial wellness. This is working for me on my physical wellness. This is not working for me on my spiritual wellness. I think that's a great place to build a life you would fight for, just like Shannon Ivy talks about. We had her on our last show for episode 200. And I've really been thinking about like, what do we want to see? Yes, this is what's going on, and we're being mindful of where we are. And as we go forward, what can I help contribute to build, and what does that look like?
Alright. So, quick Google search,
Hmm.
right?
Let's hear
A
it.
report from July of 2025 indicated
Okay.
a net loss of 338,000 women from the workforce since January, compared to a
Mm-hmm.
net gain of
Mm-hmm.
183,000 men.
Mm. Okay.
It says experts and analysis point to a combination of factors, including the increasing number of companies ending pandemic era flexible work policies and a renewed childcare crisis.
Mm.
And they were talking about the return to office mandate, the impact on mothers, aggressively mandating a return to full time work and office work, a disproportionate number. Let me
You
say
got
that
it.
word again.
Mm-hmm.
Disproportionate number of
Mm-hmm.
mothers with young children are being forced to leave their jobs.
Mm.
Yeah. And then they're also saying a childcare crisis, rising cost and closures, federal childcare funding that supported many centers and kept costs down expired in September of 2024. The resulting rise in childcare tuition and facility closures has created an economic barrier, especially for lower income women.
Right. So, and I don't know if we talked about it on the show. I heard about the system in France through this documentary called Sicko, right? And it was talking about how they get aid to their house as mother. Like she was married and had aid come 4 hours a
Mhm.
day and
Mhm.
consistent and all these things that it's so starkly, oh, this is what they're talking about when we say we're going to work not just 40 hours, but overtime to afford things that are included in other places. Now, the question is about taxes, right? What is the actual expense, not only over a month, a quarter, a year, and a lifetime to get these things? Those things need to be weighed when we're looking at different places. But when I think about the women and the households that were affected by this, and just where we've been in general, we've done this podcast since COVID. We're coming up on 5 years in January. You know what I mean? So when we're talking about maintaining our wellness and how do we do this, again, no matter how many children you have, what your income is, what your bills are, where is your, again, financial wellness in that
Right.
situation, right? Where is your physical wellness in those situations, and what resources do you need from where you're actually at?
And I would challenge the tax thing because I think that's a myth. I think
Of
we have
what?
to look about, that's always the pushback people give about universal health care and paid maternity leave. Oh, they pay so much taxes.
Mhm,
We'd have to do the research on that. That's probably a whole show. But
mhm.
I have seen things before that say, no, they don't pay more taxes than us in other countries. It's
And that's why I
about
have
comparative and we get way less services. So
mhm,
I was pulling it up as you were talking because this
mhm,
fascinates me for
mhm,
so
mhm.
many reasons, right?
Right.
Because
Mhm.
having a background in social work,
That's
being
what's
a systems person,
right.
I look at how do our systems affect us, right?
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
just not individual choices, it's systems and what is the water we swim in, right?
Right.
So Norway offers some of the best maternity benefits, including up to a year of paid leave when you
Mhm,
have a child. Iceland provides paid leave for mothers and fathers with a portion shareable between parents. Netherlands offers 16 weeks of paid maternity leave, followed
mm,
by unpaid leave and includes post-birth support from a professional assistant. And it gave a name that's a Netherlands name that I'm not going to butcher.
mhm, mhm,
Singapore provides a baby bonus scheme with financial benefits for new parents. Italy offers paid maternity leave at a high percentage of full salary plus paid time off before birth.
mhm,
Sweden offers a shared parental leave of 480 days with 80% salary pay.
mm,
I just think about that's pro-life, right? That
mm.
to me is and we talk about it in terms of transitions. We're talking about transitions today, right?
Yeah, we are.
We're talking about bringing a life into the world is a huge transition for the woman's body, for the family, for everything. We think about moving. We think about the other children in the house. Like,
Mhm.
we think about, there's so much when we
So
think
much.
about I don't wanna completely go down that rabbit hole, but I just wanted to bring up those statistics while we were
Rabbit
talking
holes for
about it
days. Yeah.
because, I am a proponent of universal healthcare.
Mhm.
I believe that we can figure this out and we can take care of our people in this country. And, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that we need to transition to that as a nation.
You know? And again, we talk about the systems. We talk about what we would like to see from other people,
Mhm,
and in these situations, especially as a business owner, when I go in and I thought that the system looks one way and then it's another way because on paper and in operations can be two different things, right? Instead of being overly critical about they didn't do this and they still didn't do this and now I'm angry, and like Eileen talks about holding on to anger, and now it's not the anger that poisons us, right? But holding on to it, it poisons the vessel that it's in. I'm not getting poisoned for other people,
mhm,
right? I need to let it go. So what do we do?
right?
Again, just like reparations, instead of waiting for 40 acres and a mule from somebody else and you see them giving stuff off to somebody
Or
else,
have you seen we didn't talk about this
what
ahead of
can we do
time,
for ourselves? What?
but talking about 40 acres and a mule,
Mhm.
the current administration is going after the Smithsonian and trying to
No.
whitewash it and take out history because he says it talks too much about, slavery and Black history, so trying to erase it.
Mhm.
And, transitions can be good or bad, can't they? Like,
Mhm.
this current one I'm not a fan of with what we're trying to erase history and erase, the truth, and we know that that is never healthy. Like, when we talk about the 8 dimensions of wellness, I was on, Alicia let me forget Maples, I think is her last name, sorry, Alicia. She has a new podcast coming out called The Glass Children, and
Yes.
we were talking about, mental health, and we were talking about forgiveness. And we were talking about, one of the things about forgiveness is facing the pain. Like, that in order to forgive, we've got to face what the truth is and what actually happened. And I, it's, we haven't done that in this country. And,
Mhm.
this. country was founded on the genocide of the Native Americans and then
Mhm,
built by African slaves and
mhm,
other slaves. And,
mhm,
I don't we've never you and I have talked about it, but,
mhm,
like, we as a nation haven't made atonement, and now we're gonna take it out of the history books and take it out of the museums and pretend that it didn't exist, and it's just like, "What are we doing? What are we doing?"
mhm. And it's difficult to get there, when you are wanting to be whole, healthy, and healed, and you talk
Mhm.
about closure and resolution, but this other person in the relationship is gonna act like it didn't happen, you know? And I had to be reminded of what that maybe I didn't have to be reminded, but I was reminded of what that felt like in this previous, collaboration I was in the last 7 months when this person left, and it was like, I don't even wanna hear that person's name anymore. Well, if you can't hear his name, then you can't hear a good part of my story.
Right?
So where does that put us, you know? And so what does that mean if even if the system that you're in is trying to ignore this part, you still have to be whole though. So now what? Now you bring yourself over here. Okay, bring yourself to yourself and still look at the 8 dimension. Look at what you have control over in your hand and then
Right?
let the rest of it go as we do the work that we can.
I think about that, when we're talking about transitions too,
Mm,
because 'cause you're right, right? Because
mhm,
often when things change, when
mm,
there's a transition, whether it's
yeah,
good or bad,
yes,
right?
right,
Like, I mean, you moving to New Jersey,
right,
great transition for you.
right,
I'm still
mhm,
and, but it's something has changed,
yes,
right? So
yes,
how do we deal with change? How do we deal my daddy used to say, "Change is the only constant."
right,
Like, that was what you can count on. That
mhm,
and death and taxes. That's were the
mhm,
2 things he like, change,
mm,
death, and taxes.
mm,
And, so we know it's gonna happen,
right,
right? No matter and I've seen a lot of people over the years, people I know and love,
yeah,
people I've coached that, try to lock down and control things,
mm,
right? And that can work for a short amount of time, but not usually an effective strategy because of
mhm,
the fact that like you just stated, we
mhm,
often don't have control of the other person for sure, but we often
mhm,
don't have control of this even the situation itself,
mhm,
right? And
right,
so how do we use the 8 dimensions of wellness? How do we look at that to help us navigate these transitions, to navigate these changes, to navigate administrations we are not uh I was gonna say enjoying, but it's even harder
mm,
than that, right? That
mm,
e we are not approving of or that we are, we're not okay with what's happening.
mhm, right,
So, how do we use the 8 dimensions of wellness to navigate life's transitions?
and we talk about it a lot, a lot of times and again, we're even intentional with the way that we bring the information. It's not gonna be at the same time. I might have just said a lot in the list that I've been giving on the episode, you know what I mean? But it is not all 8 at one time. It's gonna overwhelm you. If you get overwhelmed, that's natural, that makes sense, like, that's where it is, in any situation, you're not dealing with the whole situation at a time. It's piece by piece, incremental steps
Mhm,
like you always talk about, you know what I mean?
mhm,
And so, what is the biggest pain point? When I think about how many thousand was it? 328,000?
something like that.
What did it come up to?
I've already clicked on another
Yeah,
tab.
I'm
My
sorry, and I thought about asking you earlier, we were talking about something. Um, but when I stepped down from my salary job, right, my mom was sick. Again, I didn't know her for 12 years. I get the word that she might pass away soon. I looked at her, I saw it looks like they're right,
Mhm,
right? I know
mhm,
things happen, but it looks like they're right. I had to not let this team use my time the way they were pulling it back and forth, not caring, not hearing me, and I stepped down to go spend time with my mom, right? But that financial journey was different. So I get being the educated, competent person who is not given it, was worked very hard to get there, and now is no longer in that position. I was better socially when I stepped down. I was better
mhm,
socially in a
mhm,
more difficult situation financially, right? And so then what did that mean? And from that, I've been able to help multiple people navigate the transitions that we've seen the professionals navigating over the last few years. And hey, I'm about to move to another state and get married. What was the math that you did to really be able to leave and give your last day?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I've walked countless people now through that transition, you know? So because that's where the pain point was, and I couldn't even afford to take not one extra day. I did
Right.
not take not one extra day off when she passed away. I was off 2 days and I went back to work when I was scheduled.
Oh, I remember that friend.
It's crazy, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? So to not have that space, where were we going? Talking about the
Transitions and
wellness.
how to use the 8 dimensions of wellness
And
during tough
so
times and
right.
transitions.
Thank you so much. And so that was the pain point, the finances. So I had to look at the finances, and because I needed to get that microscopic, it helped me know what the steps needed to be
Right.
because I had to slow down that much, you know? And so sometimes we might be hard on ourselves, like, oh, it's the end of August. I thought I would be here at 2025 when I looked at my year last year this time. But if you were let go, that completely changed, you know? And that's okay. And that's where you start.
Well, and here in the United States, November 2024 changed so many things
Mhm.
with funding, with the way businesses are operating, with the things like there's been so much change and still every day we're not
Yeah.
sure, what's happening or
Need to
what
update on the updates. Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so and then, we have this horrific gun violence happening. And I don't know if you saw the latest, we don't have to mention it, but there was
Whatever you
another
wanna talk
mass
about.
shooting
In
in
LA?
no, well, that happened a couple of weeks ago at the CDC. But no, there
And
was
we were
one
talking about
today.
different situations, which is crazy. What happened today?
There was a church shooting for
Oof.
and kids that were praying in a Catholic
Lord,
church in,
Lord.
I think it was Minnesota, and,
Wow.
yeah, and so it is not okay, and so
Mm.
many people are not okay,
Yeah.
and we know that, right? We know that individually, we know that for our families, we know that for our communities. And as women, we are
Mhm.
often the people, as women, as community activists, as community builders,
Yeah.
we are the people that are, okay, so how do we do this? Because it would be really easy right now to go to bed. And, I think about the Victorian romance novels where they would have the vapors and go to bed, right?
Mm.
I mean, excuse me, I'm tickling myself. But you could just get on the news for, a minute or 2 and have the vapors right
Mm.
now. And
Mhm.
so how do we do this as we take care of our communities and our parents and our kids and our loved ones and you know, our friends? And so I think about the 8 dimensions. I think, the first one for me right now is that emotional and mental wellness.
Mhm.
It's like, what are you doing? And I'm saying you because 'cause we're having
Mhm.
the conversation. Like,
Right.
what are we doing to be emotionally and mentally well right
Mhm.
now?
So, it's crazy. The first place I'll go, and I'll just give my answer to be concise,
Sure.
my stomach,
Mm,
okay? Did you eat?
mm, mm,
What did you eat? What did you drink? Right? Yesterday, I was in Target, I was working. It was so crazy, Christine. You know, I don't even go back and forth with people, and me and this lady were if we were boxers, we were lightly jabbing, going back and forth, and I don't even do that, right?
is it a
And I
New
called
Jersey thing?
it and I was told, you know, that so I just so no so at any point now we gotta teach people how to deal with me, and they're gonna know this sweet girl from Georgia, baby, that's not the one. That's not how you do it. Okay. So not meeting energy, but it was just I just had a straight conversation with her, no chasers, you know what I mean? She showed I said, "You know what? That's wise. That's a good idea, but baby, listen, I separated it for you, okay?" Um, and so I'm being introspective and I'm running the conversation back through my mind as I leave, right? I said, "What do I you know what? Before I do my next thing, before I do anything else, let me eat." And I
Mhm,
ate my salad that I had in the car. It had dill, been delicious, some dill on a salad, right? Some
mm,
celery, cucumbers, sun-dried tomatoes, olives, like, just all the things that spark joy for me. But love dill, love okay, okay.
right?
And I hadn't eaten a lot, I needed to eat, right? So bring myself back to neutral. Am I at
Mhm,
neutral or am I below my
mhm,
capacity? Is my cup running over or is it dry right
mhm,
now? You know, really checking that. Then have I had my kombucha? Is my pH balanced? or is my gut too acidic? Is it too sweet? Am I eating too much sugar? Um, Again, the pH consistently, that should be on a daily. If I'm not doing that daily, now I'm looking at my rhythm and my routines. Am I holding my routines? I need to be drinking my water, right? I need to be drinking my kombucha. And we also been making sure we added the okra water because that's the hormone balance. And as you get all escalated and all things are going to escalate when you hear news. This gentleman makes sure he's on social media stuff on a daily basis. You're gonna see his face, you're gonna see the news, okay, if you're on a computer. So let me make sure my hormones are balanced. I have my okra water that sparks joy. And now my systems are balanced. I know I'm getting what I need in the food that I'm eating with my minerals and my vitamins. Now I can say, okay, it's something else. Maybe I need to take a breath emotionally. Maybe it is my emotions. Is there anything else that I haven't worked through? Then I keep going to everything else. But bare minimum is anything that comes into my system, will it hit level ground or am I imbalanced? So anything I put in it, good or bad, is going to hit unlevel soil. You know what I mean? That's really been my first go to.
Hey, y'all, this is a great place to take a break, take a deep breath, and hear from our awesome sponsors that make Women Connected in Wisdom podcast possible. Shannon, we are so grateful that Shayla Glow is the sponsor of the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. And I wanted to take this moment to ask you, when you think about the people who use Shayla Glow, who are we talking about?
That's a good question. I think about 3 groups really. One, the group that's removing hair, right? So whether you're using laser hair removal, waxing, shaving, you got to make sure that you're putting back what you're taking out. The second group, I think about those with dry skin and the problems that might cause, right? The scars, itching, burning, whatever the situation is, you definitely need all 3 steps, right? The exfoliation, making sure you're taking the dead skin cells off. The oil, putting in the moisture, and then the shea butter with the aloe, sealing it, helping you heal. Those things help both groups, right? And third, for the third group is those with chronic illness. The story is personally from cancer and different diseases that our population is dealing with on a daily basis throughout families as individuals. So I'm thinking about my mom and my grandmother and those around me with the same generational ties, right? And what positive, healthy habits we can start to make sure that we're maintaining our wellness, especially because the skin is like the cape, the exterior, the shield for your immune system. So with COVID, we have to be intentional about covering ourselves. And those are the groups I think about.
I love it. And you know what else I love about your product? It's all natural, handmade, and it smells great, y'all. So
yes,
yay.
Tested. Yes, esthetician tested and approved. Yes. What about you? When you think about your company, what groups of people do you think about?
Well, I work with individual coaching clients, I work in community classes, and with corporate teams. And with all of them, I use a strength-based, embodied approach to help folks connect with themselves and access joy, reduce burnout, and build resilience. Especially during these times, I think we need it. I think we need all the hashtag partnership power we can get.
Yes.
So physicality, right? Back to the basics. I'm thinking about when I used to prep foster and adoptive parents, and I was trying to come up with the acronym I used because I used to have this really cute little graphic. It was always fun, but it's exactly the things you're talking about, right? And we think about it for kids, but we need to think about it for adults too. Have we had enough sleep?
Right. You need to take a nap.
Have we moved? Have we moved our bodies, right? It doesn't have to be hardcore exercise, but it could be, you go for a walk in the neighborhood with your friend or your dog. If have you fed yourself and nurtured yourself, and are you hydrated? All the things. I'm so fascinated every time you talk about okra water. I think, like, are you making that yourself? Are you buying
Yes.
it? What are you doing?
Super easy. Super easy.
Okay.
So whatever container I use, I cover the bottom of it with the frozen okra. So just dump the frozen okra. I buy the ones that's frozen and chopped, right? Cover the bottom of it. Then I take a whole, what is it? Like, it's probably like liters of lemonade. We buy this organic lemonade. I've used all different flavors. We use peach lemonade, regular lemonade. I think this week's is raspberry lemonade. My favorite was pineapple juice. And so whole container of lemonade, just dump it. It's going to be empty, right? And the same amount of water. Now this past week was regular lemonade. I've actually been doing not regular water, but lemon water, and so it kinda brightens it. This week I didn't do the lemon. It was still good, it was light, but
Mhm.
my favorite is the pineapple juice cut with the lemon water and the okra is really, really good. But
So
they're all
you're
really
not
good.
tasting the okra.
You taste it a little bit. The
I like
biggest
okra. I
difference
wouldn't be
I
mad
think you
about
would
it.
love it.
I'm just,
Mhm.
I
Mm.
grew up on it.
I think you would if you love I think you would love it. It's really, really light as far as the flavor. If anything, it changes the consistency of the water more than it changes the taste of it, and it's gonna get a
Mhm.
little thicker, right?
Okay.
But
Kinda like when
really
you're using chia seeds too.
Mhm, mhm.
Not chia. Is
Um,
that right?
yeah,
Is it chia seeds?
chia
Okay.
seeds, mhm. But if you drink it through a straw, the difference of the viscosity and the thickness of it, you can almost not even notice it.
Oh, that's some good
Mhm.
tips.
Mhm,
Okay.
and, you should drink it within, like, 4 or 5 days on the longest, or it's gonna keep getting thicker and thicker, and
Oh,
that's sometimes what people
yeah, no,
struggle with.
I can't do that.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Now, what benefits are you noticing from it?
So, I think that I do a great job at managing my fluxes of emotions anyways,
Mhm.
but when I do kombucha and okra water, it's
More
hard
even
to
keel?
that's what I would say.
Okay.
It's hard to pick out because if I'm doing both of those, my whole system is probably on, and we know it's hard to say
Okay.
one
Yeah,
thing does not prove
yeah.
causation. But I would say more even keel. I trust that I'm gonna have more of that response time that I want. I'm at a place where I don't even want a short fuse. I don't want you to
Mhm.
see my fuse. I'm like a lighter, you gotta pull it out to get to it.
Mm.
That's how that's how I wanna be, you know
So
what I
it
mean?
feels like it expands your well of
Mhm.
resources.
Mhm.
Like it kind of
Yeah. It's
okay,
like a super hydrator to the system, it's gonna balance those hormones.
okay.
Um, it does a lot of great things for you, you know what I mean? We
Nice.
could go I would do the research and look it up if somebody's
Yeah,
interested, to make
yeah.
sure that they're comfortable and test the thickness of the water with the straw, but it's been amazing.
I love it. I love that. I love people's personal stories. We always, we are
We
not
do.
medical professionals. We don't
Right.
like check out what you need.
Yep. So speak right for
I'm a big believer in everybody everybody, BODY, knows what they need. Like
yeah,
and part of it is checking it out for yourself, like
it
what
is.
works and what doesn't work. And I love hearing your story about that because you've mentioned it several times.
Oh, yeah,
And
binge
I'm
watch.
every time I'm like, should I be paying
Yeah.
attention to that?
Because I'm so interested in, um, the fact that these hormones for our transgender community was rolled out and then they're being rolled back. What does that mean? You know what I mean?
Ooh,
So if you
they're
need to
under
control
attack.
it's crazy,
Mhm.
And so and everybody has hormones that give and ebb and flow, and so I'm seeing all these prescriptions and things, and it's like, instead of prescriptions, what else can we do on a proactive, natural, healthier way to supplement things?
Well, I'm also curious about natural testosterone because I was
Mhm,
listening to somebody about how and I don't wanna I'll quote it if I quote it wrong, but it's the same old story about
mm, mhm,
how men have a lot of medical testing and women have almost 0. And,
mhm,
that, women, we have testosterone in our bodies, and as you
mhm,
go through perimenopause and menopause, that drops.
mhm,
But, like, women can't get the support they need
mhm,
because it hasn't been FDA approved, even
mhm,
though FDA approved men's testosterone in a ridiculous short amount of time. Like,
mhm,
it's that disparity of health and
mhm,
also myths about it, right?
right,
It is all of this, is I think people from my perspective, because I
mhm,
do have friends that are trans and, that this affects all of us, y'all. It doesn't
mhm,
just affect the trans community because
right,
when they're talking about body autonomy and they're talking about, um it's funny that we brought up the trans community when we are talking about transitions.
mhm,
I didn't even realize that.
no,
But,
that's it.
when we're talking about medical research and we're
Yeah,
talking about and there is a big disparity in the genders, and it does impact us. It impacts us all. And then we
yeah,
talk about the transition from perimenopause to menopause, and
mhm,
there's been a lot more talk about it, and been a lot more conversations, but we're still woefully inadequate in
mhm,
this country with research about it, with
yeah.
research about what works and what doesn't work. So,
Yeah, and, when I did my research on okra water, I didn't see any, testosterone, progesterone, those weren't the hormones that it was talking about, right? I know there's
Mhm,
certain things that specific people are looking for specific reasons. Again,
mhm.
I'm an advocate that in my
Your
medical
research.
it
Yeah.
right, in my shallow medical training from the naturopathic doctor that I was trained by, that anytime your system is balanced, it's gonna help all those other things, you know? And I am, at this point, am not trying to, in any type of way change those numbers. What I can say, again, from what I've seen, is that we're talking about, like, pain during intimacy and different things like that. I think okra water would be phenomenal for that. If you're struggling with,
Mhm,
like, um the natural rhythm of things, especially from the female perspective, I think that
mhm.
would help. It's also said to help on the male side, so we both drink it just to make sure that our systems are good, right? But outside of that, it reminds me of Susan Branton because she does have specifically natural supplements that
Mhm.
do specifically target those hormones. And she has done all the research and the different things that's on her sites and part of her information and her education system. So I would do those two.
Right,
Mhm.
right. We gotta follow up with her because she was gonna send us some of those. We gotta check
Yeah,
that.
and
That'd
she's
be
talking about
fun.
the diagram, she's supposed to come back, y'all, but,
Right? I
wherever
can't
you
remember
are.
what episode that was, but,
It
I
wasn't too
love
long.
when we have the experts come on and teach us things. So,
Yeah,
alright, so we talked a little bit about emotional and mental wellness, and I know
we
we're not
did.
gonna get to all 8 today because, there's just not time.
Mhm.
But what bubbles up next for you in these times when you think
Hmm.
about transitions? Which, dimension of wellness?
Mm. You know, and it's funny because it didn't until just now, but social wellness.
That was the one that literally
Yeah.
popped into my head at the exact same time. So you tell
That's
me why.
funny.
And y'all, this
Yeah,
was not
it's
prearranged.
not planned, it wasn't.
We did not ask each other this question ahead of time.
No,
So why did it
um
pop into your head?
because of the need to talk through them and how difficult that is. You know what I mean? Because you're going from one way that it used to be to another way, and like a caterpillar, you're in the middle of this change, and at the same time, you're expected to communicate, but yes, that's what's needed.
Mhm,
And when we were talking about glass children earlier, we were talking about women before the episode, and how many times are our needs either seen or not seen, right? And
mm,
so through transition, as everybody's transitioning, it's natural for everybody to look at their things and to be focused on what they have in front of them. But if you want to have room to be able to not lose yourself or make sure that when the new stage, no matter how temporary it is set up, you have enough space, you have to communicate that, or it's easy to get smaller and smaller through each transition. And I think a
mm,
lot of times that's where we struggle. And sometimes our communities struggle with the amount of conversations that women need to have because we're so used to being seen and not heard that they forgot that all these conversations are for us to have as well.
mm.
Mhm.
And is it well, I could jump on that because
Yeah.
it's like, well, I wanna change that language 'cause,
Yeah.
that's
I'm with
ableist
you.
language. So
Mm.
I'm gonna I would like to add to that, that is it because we haven't been taught, or is it
Mhm.
because we're so overwhelmed and overloaded that making the space
Mhm.
is like self-care? And often we put that on the back burner. Like
Both.
yeah, it's a yes and.
Yeah.
I was thinking social wellness. I was
Mhm.
kinda going a different take on it
What you
because
think?
I was thinking about mutual aid. I was
Mm.
thinking about community care. I was thinking about building our social networks where we live
Mhm.
and supporting each other,
Mhm.
especially in these times,
Yeah.
when the world is falling apart. I was thinking about that. I don't often have, like, end of world apocalyptic thoughts. That's just not
Okay.
how I roll. I
Mhm.
usually am pretty positive, but I was
Mhm.
having a little of those recently. I was like,
Mhm.
"Are we gonna be here in 25 years?"
Mhm. Mhm.
And then I thought, I bet the people who went through Nazi Germany felt the same thing.
Mhm.
And, it's not okay what we're going through. It's not okay what's happening to our neighbors,
No.
and the human race is resilient, like, resilient. And part of our resiliency to me is our connections. It is our relationships. It is taking care of each other.
Mhm.
It's knowing our neighbors. It's, you know, my dad was, as most people who listen to our show, he was a farmer in Texas, and he fed his neighbors. Like, he loved to grow food and feed his neighbors. He was a great gourmet cook too.
Mhm.
But, I think about that. Like, in some ways so simple, but so necessary,
Yeah. But what did he have? What did Lyndon have in order to do that?
right?
And
Well,
I'm not
no, I
talking
agree.
about
He had land.
white
Yeah.
male privilege. That's not what I'm
No,
talking about.
no, but I
I'm
hear
just
you.
talking about from the
Yeah.
work, right? Because and I've been thinking about gardening. When you
Right.
garden, you're gonna have more than you can eat. All
Right.
the it's gonna go bad before you can finish it, right?
Right.
So he made what were you gonna
Well,
say?
he had generations of knowledge
Mhm,
because he came from sharecroppers to farmers to farmer,
mhm,
right? So he had generations of knowledge. He had the land to grow it
mhm,
on. He had the Texas sunshine because I
mhm,
struggle here in Georgia with all my trees.
mm. Thank you for that. Yeah, yeah.
He had the knowledge, he had the skills, he had the passion. Like,
Mhm.
it was what he loved to do.
But I'm trying to break it down
What are
even
you trying to
further
get me
than
to?
that, right? Because some of the ladies, they might not have the generations, they might not have the
Yeah,
land,
yeah.
and it's the when we talk about August and how much we thought we shoulda did and where we feel
Mhm,
like we're supposed to be versus where we are, I think in order to make sure the community is good, we have to pull it all the way back to the individual, right? And I think we have a lot of ladies who are fighting to get out of bed. They are
mhm,
fighting to
mhm,
wiggle
mhm.
their toes.
Yep.
Neighbors can't even, like,
Right.
can't
Right.
even get there yet, you know what I
Right.
mean? And so, first, he had to do the work in the land. We've been
Mhm.
planting seeds with
Oh,
this
years.
podcast for 5 years.
Yep.
We have not seen
We've been
we do not see the tall sunflowers yet, okay? We are not there yet, and we're still
We've been
planting,
tilling the soil. Like,
heavily.
I grew up shoveling mushroom mulch.
Mm,
I'm gonna say
wow.
mulch instead of the other
Okay.
word that wanted to come
Okay.
out of my mouth.
Okay.
But, compost is
Yeah.
what compost, like
Yeah.
the using the compost, the
Yeah.
using the smelly stuff, the
Yeah.
using the stuff that sometimes doesn't work
Yes.
to create a biodiverse and
Mhm.
rich environment.
Mhm.
Right? So I love that you brought it to that,
Yeah.
about what is the soil that we are tilling.
Right.
And the other thing that really bubbles up for me about all of this, about all the 8 dimensions of wellness and about transitions, is we don't have to do it by ourselves.
Mhm.
Like, my dad, like, we were kids, we were his helpers. We how
True, I was out
e
there, I get it.
Right? Like, at
Yeah.
7 a.m. in the morning, we were out there, right?
Yeah.
Now, when we went to college, I was so mad, I have to tell you. I was so
Why?
yeah, I always talk great about my dad because he
Yeah.
passed away, but I was so mad because
Mhm.
when we left for college, his garden went from, like, an acre to 2 acres to 4 raised beds for a while. I was like, "Sir, what is happening?"
Mhm, he needed
And
them
he was like,
hands.
"Well, I don't have as many mouths to feed." But part
Mhm.
of it was he didn't have his people, right?
Mhm, it's a lot.
And then he got other people to come and help him, and the garden expanded, and he went to farmer's
Mm.
market and did all that stuff. But,
Mhm.
he didn't do it by himself. He had my mom who was helpful,
You
and
know
we don't have to do this by ourselves. Like,
no, but what I was trying to get to is that because we keep getting there, right? And I think that it's overwhelming for people because
mhm,
they don't have
yep,
the overflow yet.
yep,
They just tilling, they're just,
right?
putting the seeds down, and then everything is going out, and they don't have the food on the table and the extra to give away.
Well, that's a great point. And
Mhm.
so what Alicia asked me the same question when I
Yes.
was being interviewed for her podcast. So she was like, "Christine, we got women all over the world, which we
Yeah.
do too on our
Mhm.
podcast, and
Mhm.
they may not have resources to go to a therapist. They may not have resources to go to a coach, right?
Mhm.
What do they do?"
Right.
Right? And what we were talking about in that moment was about forgiveness, but it could be emotional, mental health, it could be all
Mhm.
of this. And
Mhm.
you know, I always fall back on art. And one of the things I do is because to me, nature has art supplies. Like, we can create, and as Dr. Sheila K. Collins says, we must make art out of what happens to us.
Mhm.
Right. So, going back to the first of the show, when we talked about I was creating these things,
Yes.
like, I didn't buy a thing. Like, it was scrap paper that I started
Right.
using. Yes, I had bought the jewelry stuff on sale. There, but I looked around and saw, what do I have? And that was
Mhm.
my place of creation. And
Yes.
so I think that is what is that? Look around,
Mhm.
notice,
Yes.
check in with your body. What do you need? And then look around, what can I create today?
Mhm.
And maybe you pick a dimension of wellness. Like, what can I create for my emotional and mental wellness today? And my emotional and mental health. What can I create? And maybe that's writing in the sand affirmations to yourself, right? Or
Mhm.
maybe that's writing on a piece of paper. And what we talked about on that podcast
Mm.
was, it could be for forgiveness, you write down all the things that you want to let go of, or the
Mhm.
letter to the person that you aren't in relationship anymore, or that's no longer on this earth.
Mhm.
And then you tear it up and put it in water and reform it, and then create new paper and
Mm.
put seeds in it and then grow something out of it,
Oh, I
right?
love that. I love that. I love that more than, just writing the letter and having it sit somewhere. I would burn it before I just throw it away, but I like
Right,
the
right.
I like the breaking it down and making it something new,
Make it
and
into art.
yeah, and that's basically what I'm trying to say as an invitation, If you don't
Right.
have enough, if you feel like you're struggling to get out of bed right now, it's okay if you're gonna focus on twinkling your toes and then moving your legs to get down to and doing those
Look
things
what you
first.
can.
Just like Sula shared in on volume 2, self-care is an all-time job, and then eventually you'll get to the point where there's extra, whether art is like the food or like Christine is talking about jewelry or crocheting, especially here in America, I would still say at the top of the world right now, we probably have a lot of excess somewhere.
Oh,
Start
yeah.
with the excess that you
Oh,
have,
yeah.
with the resource that you have. I love that.
I think about Scraplanza in Atlanta, which is a
Mm,
a really cool thrifting store for art supplies that's really cheap.
interesting. Mm,
Um, but often art supplies at thrift stores
mm,
or even free places, like,
yeah.
there's a lot of even groups on social media now, which is Free Cycle, where you can give things away and peek it.
Mm,
Or, I think this goes back to community building, right? Like,
yeah.
if my neighbors needed craft supplies, I'd happily share.
Yeah.
Like, I got craft supplies. I was a Girl Scout leader for how many years? Ooh, I
Yeah.
probably got still Girl Scout supplies in my garage.
It
Like, happy
probably
to
is.
share.
Yeah,
Happy to
yeah,
I've
yeah.
I've tried to donate and give away, and, I think that's another thing about community connection. Like, what do you need?
Yeah.
What do you need? Because I might have it and be able to share it, you
Yeah.
know?
And vice
And
versa, y'all. Like,
right.
somebody that is sharing with you, they might need something that you have. It might not be
Absolutely.
monetary. Yeah.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, we know how to do this. We know how
Yeah.
to check in with each other and do this and be in community and relationship. I'm glad you mentioned Sula. Like, y'all hint, I think, did we? I don't know if we hinted at it in episode 200 or not, but the audiobook is
I don't
coming.
know. It is
The
on the
audiobook
way,
is
y'all.
on the way.
Yes.
I can't wait to hear. I mean, I heard them when we first came in, but I can't wait to hear them all together
Oh my
and listen
goodness.
to the book. And I think it's going to be awesome.
It's so good.
Well,
It's so good. It's
so
so
good.
good, and it's not perfect, but it is done, and we know better, and we'll do better next time, you know what I mean? But that's
That's
just
going to
part
be
of.
fabulous.
Oh, it's gonna be phenomenal, and the impact is gonna be amazing, especially when we talk about the timing of it, And that's what I was thinking with environmental wellness, and you keep talking about it too, is what do we do right now? Surround yourself with people who support you,
Hmm.
surround yourself with even if the people who you normally talk to aren't here, right? Somebody passed away through COVID, they passed away the last 5 years. So even if it wasn't COVID, it still feels like it's clumped in, but people aren't realizing it, like all of those things, you know what I mean? Who are the people that are calling?
Hmm.
Who are the people that are reaching out? Lean into those circles.
Hmm.
How close do you want them? What makes sense for this season? Um, and be honest with them. If it's mom friends or not mom friends or business friends or, me and my circles, we're tapping in once a month, and those are monthly calls on different groups, but now at least, we know it's on the schedule. Nobody's forgotten about. We know that we're not alone, but we're also prioritizing our time in other places where it needs to be to make sure that when we show up, we have everything we need.
Right? I think
Yeah.
that's good. And it's okay to calendar it. I mean, I think that's another we've talked about that on other shows, but, like, calendaring your self-care, calendaring your rest time, calendaring your check-in with your friends and family for social wellness,
Yeah.
because it can get bypassed. I know, as somebody who was diagnosed with ADD when I was either 18 or 19,
Mm,
had it my whole life, of course, but,
right.
time blindness is real, and I hurt somebody's feelings this last week, and I was like, "Oh, oh,"
Mm,
like, 'cause and to be fair, it
mhm.
was well, I'll just say it on air what
Okay.
happened. So I had reached out to somebody that it was new to my area. Like, when they
Yeah.
came to my area, I showed them around, and I wanna be their friend, right? But you know my life the last couple of years. I've been traveling. I haven't been as
Right.
home as much as usual. And I
Mm,
reached out in January because they were on my mind to say happy New Year, as I do. I do on
yes.
big events, and they were like, "Would love to get together this year." I was like, "Me too." And then I look up and what are we at? August 27th? This happened a
Mhm.
couple of days ago. So we're mid-August, and I reached out and was like, "Hey, I'm home for a couple of weeks, would love to have tea." And they're like, "Why are you reaching out now?" And I'm like,
Oof.
"Right?" But I was like and then I, of course, had the shame and guilt of, "Oh, I didn't do that." But then I was like, "They also didn't reach out to me." And I don't know what's going on in their life, and,
Understandable.
I want
Yeah.
us to be gentle with people, but I know for myself personally, time blindness can be like, it's August 27th. Like, I'm sure I have people that I was supposed to talk to in January, and
Mm.
if it wasn't on my calendar, it didn't happen, and I apologize. I
Yeah, y'all, I
like
could tell you how long did we go without seeing each other, Christine? Was it
right?
2
It was
years? How long was
I
it? It
don't
was
think it
like
was 2 years. I don't think it
how
was.
long? I
Maybe
think
at least 6 months.
it was before your dad passed away.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's last May. That's 13 months ago.
Right?
It had been a minute, y'all, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So,
Yeah.
y'all, any day my vote. I'm a advocate for you. Absolutely, she needed more time. This is
Right?
the beginning that's after last May, after everything, then the holiday season, and then it's a new yep, it makes sense. With Christine time, it makes sense, it's okay.
Well, and to be gentle with each other, right? Because
Yeah,
we don't know
and
what people are
that.
going through.
No, please
Like,
don't do
we
that.
we don't
Sorry,
know what
whoever that
people are
is.
going through. We
A
don't
lot.
know, and I don't know what this person's going through. So I
Yeah, it's a
wanna I
lot.
wanna offer a lot of grace, but
Absolutely.
I want us to be kind and gentle with each other. And but what you said, what it made me think of is I'm paying attention to who's
Yeah.
showing up, who's not showing up,
Mhm.
who's on my mind. Like, I
Right.
often so this is tricky because I'm not going into town as much. The
Yeah.
pandemic totally shifted the way I work in the world, and used to, I was on the road a lot. So
Yeah.
when I'm on the road, I like to call people. I put
Mhm.
on my, whatever the device is called, the Bluetooth or whatever, and I call people and I check in. Well, when I work from home, that's not the same because I'm often in meetings, right?
Mhm.
But I still do this. Like, when I am traveling, once or twice a month, I'm driving into Mercy Care and doing a program. And so I will get in the car, say my little prayer of protection, and then I ask, like, who do I need to check in with?
Mhm.
Who do I need to call? Who do and often I'm very quickly given a name or two that,
Mhm.
oh, you need to call this person or this person. And that's just kind of the way I work, right?
Love it. Yeah.
Those are mine, not on my calendar, but spirit is telling me to dial the phone, right?
Right.
And, I've just been paying attention to that, right? What who and sometimes it is the squeaky wheel, right? It's the person that's in
Mhm.
crisis, or
Mhm.
it's the
Yeah.
person that, yeah, and sometimes it's somebody I haven't talked to in 2 years or 3 years, and, not for lack of love or anything like that, they just weren't in my calendar. It feels
Yeah.
so cold when I say that, but it's just the truth. I'm sorry.
No, and, I honestly I think no need to apologize. I know I'm not who you're apologizing to, but
Right?
if we're really operating in no blame, no shame, no guilt, those
Thank
things
you,
come up.
Cecile
Thank
Armstrong.
you,
Yep.
Cecile Armstrong, right? And, thinking about Lisa's book, Embracing the Unknown, and the non-judgmental observation. Wow, it's
Mhm.
August. Okay, I wonder what happened. You know what I mean? Like, that space is definitely appreciated. Um, so I get it. I get it. We go back and forth. And I also get it doesn't sound the sexiest when you're like, I need you to schedule it. But yes, baby, because you let work schedule it. The hospital will schedule you. Okay. If they
Right?
if they say
Right?
like We are oh, it's crazy. I was having this conversation last week. It came off, social media, and I know we're about to wrap up. There was this post of this woman who was having a heart attack for 2 weeks, and
Mm,
she kept disregarding and disregarding the signs, you know? This other
mm,
story, this woman was disregarding the signs. She ended up at the hospital. Long story short, had to relearn motor skills. I'll say it
mm,
that way.
mm,
All the way from something that you would consider very mild to half body shut down, had to relearn motor skills, you know? And so that's why I really wanted to take the second to go back to, if you didn't have enough seeds to have enough for yourself to overflow,
right?
this is not a scarcity mindset. It's not
No.
me saying, "Hey," some people, it's just saying, "Hey, if you
Yeah,
need to make sure that you're okay first, make sure
right?
that you're okay so that when you show up and you give, everybody at your table can still eat and you can still have extra to give away." Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's no need to apologize if the harvest wasn't what you thought it was, something happened to the crops, and it's short, that's out of your capacity, and if you're doing
right.
your best every single day, that's amazing, you know, and I
Mhm.
think that's what healthy community looks like, to be honest about what that is.
Woof. Love it.
Yeah, thank you.
Navigating transitions.
Yeah. So, end of season 24, right? Navigating transitions and for your wisdom and action this week for yourself.
Yeah. My wisdom in action for navigating transitions. I think I'm gonna go back to my create more because I am so inspired by this weather, by the change in seasons. I want to give my creativity more room to play because I've
Mm,
been doing a lot of administrative stuff and a lot of the work of things, and I want to play more. So mine would be hashtag play more and create more because I think
mm,
out of those things, well, I know out of those things because science and my coaching experience teaches me that out of those things comes more productivity or more satisfaction or more
right.
health and more balance in the 8 dimensions of wellness. So those are
Yeah,
my 2 things. What about you?
yeah. Um, I will say hashtag live life to the fullest
Mm.
and the fullest. What I mean when I say that this week, what I'm thinking about is being more excited when things don't go as planned, right? And instead of this initial hesitation and pushback that you then have to buy me into, the okay, yes, that makes sense, that's wise, you know what I mean? Remembering that yes, we set the plan, but God only exceeds expectations when things don't go as planned, right? So things not going to plan is going to happen. It's not in your control anyways. When that happens, even if it's disappointment or unexpected conversation, like, okay, well, what does it look like to live the rest of your day the fullest? You know what I mean? What does it look like to build this situation um, to what you would still want it to be, even though that thing happened, or this conversation happened, or this wasn't where you thought it would be? Now what? You know, and having a little more fun with that, and again, staying present. I think I've been doing great at that, and just enjoying every day of the
Mm.
journey.
I love that. That staying present and checking in and gratitude. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a special shout out that I
Okay.
want to do
Okay.
before we get off because next week we will not
Mm,
be on the air. Next week is Joe's birthday, my
happy
sweetheart,
birthday.
one of the few people who has probably listened to every episode.
Thank
We've
you,
been
Joe.
connected with him. Thank you, Joe.
Yes.
One of our supporters behind the scenes. And so I just want to say happy 60th birthday. I adore you, and I'm so grateful that we're in this
Mm,
together. So,
yes,
any other
happy
thing we
60th
need to
birthday,
shout
Joe.
out?
Um, yeah, you know, I already shouted out Joe. I feel like we could do a whole thing
Oh,
on that,
Joe.
you know? Yeah, because of and he's in the book on the acknowledgments as our partner, you know, one of our partners who helps us. And would I be able to thank you every week if it was not for all of the support that he gives you, you know? So I know I have no idea what that whole list is, but I appreciate it. Yeah. Um, and
Well,
Joe,
it just hit me because we celebrated 30 years of marriage this year, and he's turning 60.
mhm,
So I got to bring that up that and next year he
mm,
will have more years with me over 50%. So
mhm,
this year's 50% and next year's 51. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that, but it will
Okay.
be a conversation.
I'm with you on the journey. I'm here. You know what I mean? We have it. We have space to have it. Um, and y'all, more stories,
Right?
more stories of decades spent doing things,
Mhm.
research, and work with our ladies. And I'm talking about our audiobook, right? We mentioned it earlier, but we've been talking about volume 2 for some years now. When you finally have this other version, I'm super excited because people listen to books more than they read them now.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
part of me is like, why are our books not moving? They move when we have events, right? And we know
Right?
we've
They
been
do.
around the world and but we know that our audience also wants to listen to it. So we
Right.
have it on the way. We
So
know
we
you've
have
been waiting.
volume 1 already out there.
Yes, it's
So
out
if you
there.
wanna get caught up, listen to
Mhm.
volume 1,
Go ahead and
and
get
volume
started.
2 is coming
Coming
around
shortly. It
October.
should yeah, before the holidays, y'all,
Right?
so
Coming.
get locked in. We're going on break on the holidays. Christine shared we got 2 weeks, so not live next week, but live at 5 the week after, right? You have the opportunity to listen to volume 1 audiobook. Volume 2 audiobook is coming right behind that. And make sure that you're subscribed and plugged into the channel on your favorite podcast platform. We say YouTube. If you don't have one, go ahead and follow us on YouTube, subscribe so we can get our numbers up. We greatly appreciate it. And share some of your favorite episodes with those that you love in the different areas that they need help. If they're going through a transition, is it spiritual? Is it financial? Plug in with the ladies. We have 201 episodes now. Share with us what's working and what you like about the show, and we'll see you soon.
I love it. Thank
Anything
you
else you
so
want to
much.
add? Of course.
No, just
All right,
grateful.
y'all.
Gratitude.
Grateful for
201 in the books. Shout
yeah.
out. Thank you to Sati, our behind the scenes.
Yes,
We
Sati
appreciate
Mala.
you, Sati.
Thank
And
you.
yeah,
All right, y'all. We'll see y'all live again, not next week, but the week after. In the meantime, don't forget,
be well
be wise, and
and
be
be
whole.
whole.
Peace.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. On air live on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern via Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be part of the conversation and get connected at womenconnectedinwisdom.com.